Hello to all my fans and friends, I'm the Pyjama Critic, and since an international cruise is not on the cards for the time being, I'm here in the Slumber Lounge talking about movies. I have mentioned before about sequels taking the characters in a similar but new direction, of course keeping things in the same genre but get a new setting and give the characters a new set of challenges to tackle. Here we have clear evidence that that formula doesn't always work. I hope you all appreciate just how much I'm willing to suffer for you as we take far too close a look at Speed 2 Cruise Control. Released in 1997, directed once again by Jan de Bont, hastening the end of his short-lived directorial career, starring Sandra Bullock and Jason Patric, the film was going to be about the further exploits of Annie and Jack, but Keanu Reeves took one look at the script and noped right out of it. So we end up with Annie and her new boyfriend on a cruise ship, once again under threat of imminent destruction as they try and keep their passengers safe and neutralise the terrorist. As I've mentioned, the setting being a cruise ship, the mode of transport that's more or less by definition is as slow-moving as it can be, you have probably worked out by now that certain elements of the action from the first movie are absent here. In fact, this movie may as well have been called Crawl. We start by introducing Alex Shaw, played by Jason Patric, in a high-speed chase. It is very evident from the get-go that this was written as Jack Travers, but had the name changed when Keanu Reeves didn't want to come back. So we have this other SWAT officer, who behaves just the same and also works for Mac McMahon, played by Joe Morton. This scene is intercut with Annie, once again played by Sandra Bullock and still without a last name, taking her driving test. Remember how she mentioned in the first film she had her licence revoked? Well, it seems she was downplaying that when she said she was suspended for speeding. She is a terrible, reckless driver. Comical though this is, it does feel like quite the retcon for her character, as she proved herself extremely capable behind the wheel of the bus in the last movie. Maybe we're supposed to believe the experience exacerbated her dangerous driving style, but it does leave us questioning how she could ever have had a licence to lose before. This sequence also serves to give fans of the first movie their fix of auto-destruction, as this is the only fast-paced road action you're going to get in this picture. Also, Annie can provide some exposition about how she and Jack didn't last, and now she has a satisfying relationship with Alex.
Car door needs opening, he opens it. My neighbor's abusive, he yells at him. The other night, we were watching a video, he let me pick it out.
So he treats her like a person with a mind of her own. Wow, her standards are low.
What?
Stop it! Stop! Stop!
The two road scenes converge as Annie and Alex come face to face. We find out Alex has been less than truthful with Annie.
You lied to me.
Annie, I didn't lie about
You never said that you were on the suicide squad, ever.
You knew that I was a cop. I said there was a... Wait.
All of this to explain why Annie is now with somebody who talks and acts like Jack, works in the same unit as Jack, takes risks just like Jack, but who isn't Jack. Rather convoluted, but no need for concern because after this conversation none of that gets mentioned again. It does give a reason for Jack to treat her to a luxury Caribbean cruise, which is a super lavish gift for a 6-month anniversary. We never find out what Annie got him, but it had better be something extra special. Cut forward to the two of them boarding the cruise, where everybody assumes they're on a honeymoon. No idea why, all sorts of couples go on cruises, and it's not like the Caribbean cruises have a reputation for being especially popular with honeymooning couples. We're also subtly introduced to John Giga, played by William Dafoe.
A casino?
Hey,
hello.
Excuse me, sir? I'm starting to get a little upset. My golf clubs, have you found them?
Minor spoiler for those who tend to miss the bleeding obvious, he's the villain. The happy couple are shown to their room. Seems prior to meeting Annie, Alex had been investing his wages wisely because he's got them a suite that goes for around $1,000 a day for two people. We also find out why he's so jumpy about the honeymoon comments.
Doesn't seem very interested in golf for someone who had a fit about his clubs, though.
No? Really? Why do you say that?
Well, tournament's on right behind him. He hasn't even glanced at the TV.
Jack demonstrates he would be better served as a detective, and an important announcement from the crew.
Okay, well, on board we have the Diamond Jewelers of America with us tonight, and they would like to show you something.
So we have some really expensive jewellery on board, in case any terrorist thieves are listening. We also learn that the big bad this time is not a bomber, but a tech genius cyber criminal, with some leeches? A thwarted proposal over dinner, and Giga puts his plan into motion. This sets the movie apart from the first, as we see every step of the criminal's work, rather than just be told he has set these things up and be left guessing as to how. For the less technically minded, let me explain. He has plugged a new program into the mainframe and set up a few beepy things in key areas of the ship so he can control things from his room and make sure the change of course doesn't show up on the real crew's equipment. He also self-medicates with medieval methods. I think there's supposed to be some irony in there, but it's a swing and a miss on that score.
And what I said when you were joking about that kid thing, because for a second I had thought you were completely serious. I thought you were actually going to ask, you know.
This is a thing. Really, this entire subplot about Alex wanting to propose and Annie making it difficult by being brutally honest about the nature of their relationship is just bland. Scenes revolving it around it, they're not boring, they don't even drag on, they're just hollow, they're wallpaper. I can't even find something entertainingly bad to say about them. Giga knocks out a cabin cleaning person, whatever the cruise ship equivalent of a chambermaid is called, and somehow gets a captain's uniform. After the real captain discovers they're off course, he runs into Giga, who assaults him with a decking light and an exposition dump.
What is this? Who are you? I spent a great many years developing computer systems for these cruise lines, including this baby. And then I got tossed away!
And then does this. This ends up looking super awkward, but I actually admire the realism here. Usually action movies and games make it look far too easy to pick up and throw someone who's resisting. Giga's interference shuts off some engines, causing the ship to quake. No idea how that works. This lady's explanation makes more sense.
Sorry, it's an earthquake! It can't be, we're at sea!
Of course earthquakes strike in the sea! That's how tsunamis are formed! 40 minutes in, and we remember this is supposed to be a movie about a siege. So Giga calls the deck, where the first officer is proving there's a reason he has never been made captain.
I can't authorize an evacuation. The captain is the only one who can...
The captain is dead, Mr. Giuliano. Which means you are now responsible for the people on this ship.
Giga reveals that as well as planting sulfur grenades across the ship, allowing them to give the illusion of fires and activate the ship's auto-defense system, he also has full remote control of the ship from his laptops. This was a huge thing in the 90s. Movies had no idea just what hackers could do or how they did it, but that was never going to stop them having a guess and trusting the majority of their audience not to understand it either. The abandoned ship order is sent out, but all doesn't go to plan. This deaf girl, who was off exploring the ship, gets stuck in an elevator. This small group of passengers are trapped between two auto-closing fire doors, and the final lifeboat can't be lowered, leading to this long, flowing, slow rescue sequence to get them all back on the ship.
Get the rope! Grab the rope! I'll get it! Careful! I got the rope! Tie it up! Come on!
Really, remember the fast-paced, breathless action of the first movie? This one doesn't do that. Even in moments of heightened suspense like this, the action just feels awfully slow. Like Payne before him, Giga is doing this for a mixture of revenge and profit. A once high-flying IT expert, bitter about being medically retired, he's going to make his point but also steal millions of dollars worth of jewelry while he's at it. Not like Payne before him, we don't know enough about Giga and haven't spent enough time focused on him to really care about his motives. The bridge crew finally work out their ship has been placed on a collision course.
It's the radar. At first I thought this was a heavy fog bank, but it's not moving.
This cruise line really does employ the most dim-witted officers. It's no real feat for Alex to take charge. This lot are directionless without their captain.
I know who you are.
I know you too. You look a little wet. You see, Alex, I designed this whole autopilot system.
Giga knows who Alex is, apparently. Don't ask how, Alex doesn't. This is another difference between Payne and Giga. Payne had a personal grudge with the police bomb squad, so the battle of wits between him and Jack felt personal, engaging. Giga's problem was with the cruise industry, which Alex has nothing to do with, and the characters that do are so one-dimensional there's no reason to care about Giga's grudge with them. A reminder that Sandra Bullock is also in this movie as she finally gets an opportunity to do something heroic, or to bang on a door and offer reassurance.
We're trying with it. Is there a little girl in there? Drew?
No, there's no little girls, just big women.
Excuse me?
I mean normal-sized women. Come on, get us out of here, will you?
Okay, that was a little bit funny.
No one else is taking off their pants. I took off mine. I want to know why she hasn't taken anything off yet.
Because I'm not wearing any underwear, Harvey.
While this group are trying to perform a clown act involving stripping off to block the air vents, Annie finds something to help them in the standard issue chainsaw stock found on any luxury cruise liner. Meanwhile, Alex is falling out with the navigator and dreaming up an inventive way to slow the ship down.
We're gonna flood the ship just like you said.
Talking about?
Let's slow it down.
Right, you shut up, you shut your mouth. I never said that.
That makes less sense than Jack speeding up the subway train for whatever reason. Annie is getting somewhere with these passengers. Like I said in the last video, we never actually find out what Annie does for a living, but I'm guessing not a health and safety officer. Spotting the deaf girl in the area that's about to be flooded, Alex rushes down to get her out of there, helping her to escape a room that is slowly filling with water and riding out on a motorised laundry rack, a very slow moving mechanism. Honestly, I cannot stress enough how, for a movie called Speed, everything in this movie is just really slow. So Alex has rescued her and now he isn't signing anymore. And don't try and tell me she's lip reading. The most skilled lip readers can only pick up 40% of what's being said to them. It's very much a backup measure that deaf people use only when there's no other ways of communicating possible, and generally involves a lot of guessing based on the context of the conversation.
Okay, we have our life vests. We can jump off the ship, right?
You get sucked into the propellers, I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah, that would suck.
Please, just do something.
Hey, you don't have to save this ship.
Good point, so I'm saying nothing, I guess. Alex spots Giga and we get a chase through the corridors. Now this looks promising. Some fast-paced action at last, and that was all we get.
Hit the floor now! I was just trying to make conversation.
Yes, that's the problem. That's all you and the rest of this people are doing for most of this movie. Giga gets away, and this takes the slow pace of this movie to another level, as we are watching people standing and walking, listening to Giga explain what he has already told us. Alex and Annie are reunited as dawn arrives, and we are reminded that the ship is still very slowly heading for danger. Annie proves she is no stranger to insane solutions, but at least there's some logic behind this one.
Oh, let's take a wrench and dump it into the engine and bust the transmission like a car, because I've done that.
With that, we have plodded and dragged our way up to the spoiler section of this review. If you haven't seen this movie and don't want to know how it ends, or maybe you have tried to watch this movie before but plan to again, and are sure you'll stay awake till the end this time, then skip to this time code. If, however, you're in this for the long haul, then with some struggle, Alex succeeds in jamming the propeller with a heavy-duty cable, but Giga interferes, undoes all their work, and takes Annie hostage. Alex finally gives us something to get excited about. Giga takes off with Annie, setting us up for a good high-speed chase scene that never happens because Alex stays on the ship to try and turn it manually. Being talked through the process and diving down into the flooded part of the ship, he does manage this, and the head-on collision with the oil tanker is narrowly, and it should go without saying by now, slowly averted, leaving the slight problem of them now heading directly at the harbour.
Oh shit. Oh shit! Oh shit. Oh shit.
Mom.
Why would you not finish the chorus off with her signing? That seems so obvious. Dropping anchors. How had they not even considered that before? Still, we finally get some action, mass destruction and carnage that helps slow down the ship, though not quite enough as they plough into the harbour. This scene, that was made using full-scale models of houses and a beachfront, took up a quarter of this film's budget and enjoyed the accolade of most expensive scene ever filmed, until that record was shattered in 2003 by the scene in The Matrix Reloaded, where Keanu Reeves fights an endless mob of duplicate agents. While still slow-moving, we do have a mass of beautiful destruction, some comical moments, and all ending with this little gem. Then this. Jan de Bont really seems to have something against Jag owners. Alex remembers Annie. She was taken off on that speedboat a good 20 minutes ago, so she's got to be halfway to Cuba by now. No, apparently Annie makes her own getaway while Alex commandeers a boat from Toon Man, Glenn Plummer reprising his role as a really unlucky rich guy. This time he's with a girlfriend who appears to be the only actual Caribbean person on this island.
Get as close to that plane as you can. Give me one good reason. If you don't, I'll throw you over. Okay, that's a good reason.
Glenn Plummer's performance is a real diamond in a coal mine here. As Giga's ultimate plan comes into play, he drags Annie onto a seaplane, we get some exciting chasing, stunts, and a final crash. This is what the rest of the movie should have been about. Why did they make us wait for the final 20 minutes? This is the inverse of Saving Private Ryan. They are saved by Toon Man, the long-awaited final explosion, Toon Man spots the diamonds, unclear if he's going to return them or keep hold of them to cover everything the LAPD have cost him up to this point, and of course Alex finally successfully proposes to Annie. All is right with the world, with only one Caribbean neighbourhood destroyed and some minor therapy for all concerned, plus one more parting joke about Annie's terrible driving.
Sorry, Mr. Hedge, but that bus was going way too fast.
So that was Speed 2, Cruise Control, and it was actual pain to sit through this. Yes, there were some fun moments towards the end, but the movie just felt so slow and drawn out. Sandra Bullock and Jason Patric give reasonable performances, but the chemistry between them just isn't there the way it was with Keanu Reeves, resulting in the romance here being nothing short of painful. In the first movie it develops alongside the action, here it draws us out of what little action there is. There are a host of characters on the ship who I feel would have been entertaining if they had a chance to develop, but we don't really get an opportunity to care about any of them or their motivation. William Dafoe as the bad guy felt bland, a generic villain with a convoluted and poorly explained backstory. He was just uninteresting overall. Even Annie feels underused in this movie. Having spent most of the last movie literally in the driver's seat, she spends much of her time on this movie chaperoning the passengers, though she does have her moments, and to be honest, that's as much as anybody in this cast got. While I appreciate any sequel that tries to do something new, replacing the fast-moving bus with a slow-moving cruise ship was a recipe for disaster. None of the principal people involved wanted to do this, and it shows. Jan de Bont said he never thought Speed had any potential for a sequel. Sandra Bullock and Jason Patric only did the movie for the money so they could each finance their own projects. Bullock even graciously accepted her Razzie Award and called this movie an epic disaster. I was going to give this movie a dodge rating, no slippers, but the action in the final act that really shows what this movie might have been if it had been like that in the 90 minutes prior to that forces me to admit it has something vaguely watchable about it. One slipper, but don't let anybody take that to mean I forgive this movie for the time it took me when I could have been watching something much more interesting. My neighbour has just painted her kitchen. I missed watching that second coat dry for this movie. Thank you for watching. Please make the effort to slowly roll over the like button to encourage YouTube to advertise my videos to a wider audience. Also, you can do some of that yourself. If you think you know anybody who may like seeing a midget in pyjamas talk about movies, then share this on Facebook or whatever you use. Plus, of course, subscribe so you don't miss my new videos each week. I've been the Pyjama Critic, and remember, if you're intelligent enough to program an entire control system for a cruise ship, then there's no excuse for not researching modern medicine a little and working out antibiotics are better than leeches.